Hi, I'm Glenn Hughes.
And I'm Ed Buzio.
For 3 decades, I've been working inside a publicly traded company.
And for over a decade, I've been an entrepreneur supporting companies like Glenn's from the outside.
In this series, we look at the problems and challenges of the modern workplace
and provide our ideas and advice
from the inside
and out. Your performance review. It's sort of a love-hate relationship, and in fact, we've seen a lot in the media lately about companies abandoning the practice altogether. So the question is, do we have to have performance reviews? And if so, why?
Well, I'm going to throw a question back at you, which is, let's put performance reviews in context. What are you including and excluding when you say performance reviews?
Well, that's a good question. When you say performance reviews out to the world, I think they think of once a year I sit uncomfortably and fidget in my seat while my manager tells me how he or she thinks I'm doing, and I more or less agree or disagree with that and keep it to myself. I'd say that's the standard definition. I think you, like me, are thinking a little more broadly than that in terms of the process leading up to it. Am I right?
Well, I'd also say, is it the piece of the paper and the conversation, or is it also the money and the promotion that comes with it? Are we including or excluding that? Because that's a lot of the emotional, as you said this, so I'm going to get that, right? And so people have trouble separating those two. It also is about your development and your future in the company, potentially. And it can also be about the system and the machine that keeps an organization running and financing and attracting and developing people.
And don't forget your reptile brain, which is, it's about your sense of financial survival, because your boss sits between you and perceived financial survival, and this is your chance for your boss to demonstrate that you can or can't trust him or her. Whether they do that by accident or on purpose depends, but that's in there as well as your sort of sense of safety.
So this performance review thing that we just talked about went from a piece of paper to
pretty
a
big and messy
web.
Absolutely.
Right? So what do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about accountability. And I think one of the key things people are at least trying to do with performance reviews is to say, we hold you to some standard for how you perform and what you get done, and we're trying to compensate you in some way related to that, which is, if you do well for us, we'll support you more. I haven't found too many companies that aren't doing that, at least in most of the ones I work with. And so I think the issue of holding people accountability to output and to standards of output is a bigger and different issue than the piece of paper. And I think you can do that with or without an annual piece of paper. And I would say the doing of that, the accountability, is more important than whether or not you sit down once a year and talk about it.
Yeah, let me throw out the alternative. I used to work at a newspaper when I was a kid. And if anyone in the audience worked in grocery stores or local restaurants, you probably had a similar experience, which is I did not get an annual performance review.
Just keep working.
I'd just keep working every day, and once in a while, my boss would walk up to me out of the blue, and he'd look at me and he'd go, "Ed, you're doing a heck of a job. You're gonna find a little something extra in your paycheck. Keep up the good work." I didn't know what that meant. You know, I'd go home, open it, there's 50 cents extra an hour, but it wasn't tied to anything. I don't know what I did differently, or if he was just in a good mood, and you know,
that can drive superstitious behavior. You're going to start trying to guess what this guy's rewarding and do it, and you may get it totally wrong.
I used the same philosophy on my dog, which was, we did not want the dog to learn to eat from the table, but she loved French fries, and we used to feed her French fries from heaven. So I'd be sitting at the dinner table with my wife, the dog would be in the other room, and every once in a while I'd grab a French fry and just flick it over my shoulder. It would spin 30 feet in the air and land in the living room. She'd hear the sound and run over to the spot and eat the French fry, and then sit and look up at the ceiling waiting for the next French fry from heaven. So that was a very similar experience for me. I was getting these random rewards, but I didn't know what they were about.
And you don't want your employees sitting around waiting for French fries from heaven.
I wouldn't run a company that way.
Absolutely.
Right? And I wouldn't work for a company that runs that way. So I think that's the argument against, like, let's eliminate performance reviews.
Well, you can't eliminate performance, and you can't eliminate accountability. So all you can eliminate is the nervous fidgeting in the chair. And there are ways to do that, but I think you're right. I think you don't want to do it by decoupling what you're doing from how you're compensated, unless it's an intentional thing. And again, most companies, I wouldn't say they want to do that.
So you run a small company.
I do.
And you could do anything you want based on all the best practices you've ever learned and experienced. You've done away with performance reviews?
No.
Okay, what do you do?
What I do is we sit down once a year in a sort of a formal setting, but my main purpose with that is to assess whether my one person that I'm reviewing is doing the same job I think I'm paying her for, or if there's a market difference. But as far as setting expectations, as far as communicating encouragement or corrective messages, those kind of things, that's ongoing. I certainly don't wait to deliver any message at a performance review for her that I wouldn't give her in the moment I had it. I don't wait a week to deliver a message. If she's doing something right, I tell her. If she's doing something wrong and I need it corrected, I ask her to correct it, because why would I wait?
Right. Yeah, I think, when you look at why do we have annual reviews, you would say because probably if we went back in time, because of fiscal years. We close the books. We know how we did. Now let's go share that information with our employee base that they helped us or didn't help us achieve our goals. We know that because of the stock market and the pace of life, now we look quarterly, at least. So why wouldn't you be having those conversations quarterly with your employees instead of waiting for the ceremony at the end of the year? And in fact, most people who monitor stocks don't wait a quarter to figure out what they're doing with their stocks. We know the performance. Why wouldn't you have that conversation more frequently?
And a step further for me, I've got a lot of contractors too, and I don't do any quote-unquote performance review with them, but I certainly also give them information, expectations, results, feedback, et cetera. So, yeah.
So what can the employee do? They're all too often employees feel like they're a victim in the machinery of this whole tangled web of performance reviews. What's their responsibility?
I'd like employees, as employees, to get very clear on what output they owe the organization and to make an agreement with the management as to what that is. And I'd like managers to be very clear with their employees as to what output they owe. And you do something very good in that. You even drop sometimes some rubrics where you say, here's what basic success and advanced success and extreme success look like. I think if those conversations are happening on a regular basis, then whether or not you have a formal process, a no surprises performance management system is in place, and that's, I think, what you need.
So performance reviews, they're about performance. The review probably isn't going to go away. What we want to do is focus on how am I doing? Can I get feedback? Can I correct? However formally or informally you do that, that's the intent. That's what you need to serve.